And that's it. That's a wrap on this season of RLCS. At least for now, the main stage awaits many teams out there, or at least some of those teams. The main season, though, is now concluded. Our last week this past weekend was amazing. I'm here for the breakdown with all of you guys, and it was absolute insanity. Some big things happening. First of all, though, I want to show you guys our preseason predictions for the final rankings. Of course, a few teams out there have changed their names. I think at least one, that being Bread, has changed their name ever since then. But I can say one thing. We did not do too bad with our preseason predictions, as you guys have seen, but some crazy things happening this past weekend. I would say, though, overall, not bad predictions-wise. You know, EG and Splice kind of switched around, Rogue down there as well. Numbers 1, 2, and 3, I only messed up G2, and of course, Cloud9 had those two teams switched as well. NRG lived up to the preseason hype, and they did so in very dramatic fashion this past season, of course, this past weekend, now going undefeated 7-0, and in doing so, only one series went to Game 5. Their dominance continued on. I think a slower start this past weekend against Rogue. They picked it up, though, ended that series in just dominant fashion. We'll talk more about them in a bit here. And then you look at the bottom of the listing as well. You know, you have teams like Splice and EG, who certainly, by most standards out there, probably deserved their last place placements. I think of those two teams, Splice offensively a little bit less, or more so underwhelming of a team in terms of shock factor. EG, though, had several close series, just could not get over that hump of closing those games. And then you go back up to the top, you had a team like G2 who take that second place automatic spot away from Cloud9 by taking a lot of their last series, you know, notoriously going to Game 5, not this past weekend, and they do so also by taking down Cloud9, although I say that, and it was Game 5 for at least that series, and you know, dramatically so, the last game of the season against G2 and Cloud9 going all the way to Game 5 was great, but it's still very surprising because you have a team like Cloud9 now officially on a losing streak. They've lost their last 3 series, and they will now face off, as we'll talk about the playoffs, or regionals that is, in the last half of the episode, at least predictions-wise, the matchups-wise, it will be Cloud9 facing off against Space Station, who beat them in their last matchup 2 weekends ago. Either way, North America has been madness this season. I cannot wait as we slowly approach regionals and the main stage, and I will be here, of course, breaking down each of those events. Thank you all for being here so far throughout a great season, but as always, let's get into our first category out there, which will be the MVPs of the week. And this might as well be a segment really quickly for, you know, MVPs of the entire season, but we'll do it primarily for the last weekend. It's going to be Garrett G. All in all, this guy has, to me at least, you guys, I'm really curious who you think right now would be your number one in the world, or at least number one in NA currently for players out there. For me, it would be Garrett G. This guy all around, setting up his teammates offensively, defensively, he has just done things that have been so flashy, so out of the ordinary, especially these last few weeks, and proven to me, at least currently, the number one North American player, and if not in the world as well, and he definitely was the MVP for me this past weekend. Just an absolute shocking player, a complete joy to watch this guy go off, along with his teammates looking stellar alongside him. It's just pretty crazy to see a guy like this can stand out even on a team who is already undefeated and the best team in America. And then very lastly, MVPs this past week has to be, I want to say, Illusion. I think Illusion defensively, and again, setting his teammates up, has certainly found some sort of momentum, some sort of glue for this Ghost Gaming roster, and I'm really, really happy to see these guys back in it and certainly have a chance again to make the main stage, or closer than they were last season. Unfortunately enough, falling short to EG, you know, many months ago now. So they have another shot yet again to try and make it to the main stage. But with that being said, I'm going to give it to Memory this past weekend for offensively, definitely winning these guys at least a couple of their games, and it's just great to see both those guys going off, and a Ghost Gaming who just all in all to me is carrying this momentum forward, and they are doing so successfully. Can they keep it going though against Rogue? That's another question. You know, a lot of these bottom or middle teams out there are so close when it comes to gameplay, and that's what's going to make regionals that much more fun. And teams of the week this past weekend, I'm going to give it to one team and one team only, although if I had a second team, I would have said probably, you know, a team like G2, but it has to go, right? After all this season going undefeated, it has to go to NRG. They did not slow down. Well, they maybe for a second, you know, against Rogue, a slower start, but that series, like I said before, that final game, they ended it in brutal fashion against Cloud9. A lot of those first half of those games went by pretty slow, but so fast that series turned around in NRG's favor. They have proven themselves time and time again over the last 6 to 7 weeks, over those last 7 games, to be the number one team in North America, consistently, offensively, even at times defensively, shutting down a team like Cloud9 very impressively so. And when you watch these guys play, they're aggressive, their fast play style, their offensive pressure has not slowed the entire season. And against a team like Cloud9, even though some games they seem close, they were tied 0-all or 1-all, but all of a sudden it's NRG up 1, then NRG up 2, 2 in such a fast, repetitive pace. No team right now can keep up with these guys, and they have certainly deserved team of the season, and even more rightfully so, team of this past weekend as well. And for plays of the week out there, all coming from particularly one series, although we have 4 plays, one's from a different series, but it's going to be that Cloud9 NRG series. But first of all, I'm not sure of this first play, whether to give it to, a play of the week for NRG or a not so play of the week for Cloud9 with the fake kickoff. Then Squishy has his answer in our second clip, and then very finally, it's kind of NRG fashion for our third clip. Just mash the ball till it goes into the goal.
He's absolutely insane. Oh, Garrett G with the fake kickoff, the flick over the top, make him feel bad, put him in the ground. Oh my goodness. They went for the fake. Cloud9 goes for the fake here, and he's like, that's cool. Ate him alive.
They strike right back. Cloud9, though, they answer with some pressure, just can't come away with anything yet. But this time they're finding each other in the middle of the field.
Oh!
Squishy Muffins, you are ridiculous!
That might be the shot of the season for Squishy Muffins. An impossible angle to keep their top 2 hopes alive. Squishy
put up 14 shots.
And they only allowed 4.
And that's what it took to get to overtime.
How many times have we seen that in the RLCS?
Just a scrum.
One hand.
Just a scrum right
beautiful.
in front of the line.
It's beautiful. Look at it. That's what Rocket League's all about. Come on.
And then lastly, for plays of the week as well, during Space Station and Splice's series, it was actually Jay-Wiz pinching it off the ceiling into the goal. I thought it was pretty cool, and no one was really talking about it.
Sathu challenge. Typical will be moving in, but here comes Jay Wismont. Wins that one. It's going to be bouncing off and down. It's crazy. AXP actually pinches it into his own goal, and Splice has the lead.
And Splice continues to find Space Station a little too far forward. This time they win the challenge, and AXP already pushing off the goal line.
And as per usual, when it comes to underwhelming teams, we talk about the teams that perform kind of under their typical caliber, or at least not very well in the weekend. As of right now, in terms of caliber, we don't expect too much out of Splice or EG, but I talked about them probably 2 of our last 3 weeks as well as being underwhelming teams ever since their struggles early on, probably weeks 1 for Splice and weeks 1 and 2 for EG. Something just not clicking amongst these teams. When it comes to a team like Splice, just offensively, shut down pretty heavily over the last few weeks, especially looking around weeks 4 and 5, especially in those series, just overall kind of seemingly devastated, kind of shot down in some fashion, cannot get anything going on the offensive side. Obviously they say defense wins championships. In Rocket League, though, if you can't score, you can't win. When it comes to EG, though, certainly a bigger mystery ball when it comes to how many close series they have had, just not able to get over the hump, especially when it comes to the G2 series. Might have been a defining turning point for their season. I did predict them as my last ranked team when I went to preseason rankings, but after seeing them week 1 and 2, I really did not think they deserved to be there, and then they continually proved themselves to be deserving of being towards the bottom so far. Now, when it comes to relegation matches, it's pretty crazy to see a team like EG make their regional run last season to the main stage, and all of a sudden next season they are now going to be in the relegation matches upcoming against some very hard rival series teams. So I worry a lot about these teams, especially because over these past 2 seasons it seems the rival series talent is ever growing, and it's going to be a stiff competition to keep EG in the next season of RLCS. But certainly overall, I think our bottom 2 teams, that being Splice and Evil Geniuses, have to be the underwhelming teams this week and overall throughout the season. And then very lastly, heading into regional playoffs, guys, we have our opening matchups defined for the first day of this upcoming weekend, and that will be none other than Cloud9 versus Space Station, the team they lost to 2 weekends ago. But although I will say one thing, Space Station, much like many of the teams out there in the middle of the pack, a very back and forth team. They had a couple great weeks, and of course taking down Cloud9 the way they did, every single game they scored the first goal. So I will say I was very impressed in that series, but at times I've also seen a Space Station fall off the map and really not been impressed whatsoever. Cloud9, if they can show up as they typically have, I would probably still favor them, of course, as many of us should, but it's great to see another matchup like that where Space Station did take them down, and they're going to get their chance again to defeat the former world champions yet again on top of that. Now, when it comes to the Rogue and Ghost situation, this, again, like many matchups we're going to see in these regional playoffs, is going to be a coin flip. You have a team like Rogue who has struggled like Ghost all season long, but then as of the last 2 weeks, they both have kind of found their momentum, mostly when it comes to Ghost and somehow defining the role for Illusion in this team and really coming together chemistry-wise, but also a team like Rogue, you look at the back half of their latest series, they seem to find the offensive pressure once again with Kronovi and his setups and what he's brought to the team as well. So it's going to be very cool to see what teams actually show up when it does come time. They need to show up, but both these matchups to me are going to be very close, and it's going to be cool to see that the storylines develop as regionals do go on as well. But as always, hope you guys all enjoy. I will see you back here sometime very soon with more Rocket League news. On top of that, breaking down more RLCS as we do approach regionals. If you guys want to stop by later today, I'll also be breaking down this past weekend for EU as some even more crazy things did happen. But as always, I hope you guys all enjoy. I'll see you back here next time, and until then, I'll see you soon.